Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My traditional greeting, depending upon what time of day you consume your media. Welcome to Run It Back, episode number 92. I am your host, Menelik Fernandez. Thank you for joining, watching, listening. Appreciate the support. The premise of Run It Back, of course, remains the same, where we take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak, where we talk about the intricacies of game planning. We talk about in-game adjustments. We look at some video from the game and all that niche stuff that coaches love, sort of like a hot stove model where we can shoot the breeze about the game. Today we are exploring a game that happened not too long ago. So we're recording in, I guess it's now March 1st of 2022, and this game happened December 22nd, 2021. It is Murray State versus Auburn. And similar to previous episodes, we are very fortunate to have a coach who is partaking in the game join us. It is my pleasure to welcome Tim Kaine on the show. Tim, if you give me a second, I'll do a little bit of the biography to give you a warm welcome to the show. Tim is currently in his 7th year at Murray State. During this time, he's won 3 OVC regular season championships and 2 OVC tournament titles. He was previously an assistant coach at Georgia Southern for 1 year, an assistant coach for 6 years at Florida Atlantic, where they won the Sun Belt Championship. He was at Winthrop as an assistant coach 1 year, where they won the Big South Championship. He was 3 years as an assistant coach at Newberry, 1 year at Guilford, where he recruited the Division III Player of the Year, Ben Strong. He was 1 year as a head coach at Northwestern High School. He was a GA at Austin Peay, where they were also 2-time OVC champions. And he played at both UT Martin and Winthrop. So Tim, it is my outstanding pleasure to be able to welcome you to Run It Back. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me. Welcome.
Coach Fernandez, I appreciate you having me here. I know I'm getting old because you had to read out all those different schools I've been at. So appreciate that. It's 4 times now. We just won the 4th one.
I'm sorry for missing that.
Yeah, no worries.
Congratulations on the 4th one.
Thank you.
I'm not always up to speed on my NCAA basketball. Should be better off with it. Apparently, we have a guest over my shoulder. Let's say hello.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
So Tim,
Dad, where's your background?
it's not there right now. Okay. Sorry, it's a family show. Apparently, I'm being told I need to put my background back up.
Nice.
So Tim, give us a little bit of a background about Murray State, the conference that you're in. Maybe a little bit of background on this game, what part of the season you're in. For anybody who wouldn't know, tell us like we're 2-year-olds, just sort of like, where you are for everything.
Yeah, well, a little history about Murray State, which very fortunate to be here. Been here 7 years now. This last championship we won regular season, that's the 28th in school history, OVC championship, which will be the last OVC championship because we're actually moving to the Missouri Valley next season. So, it's a nice way. Obviously, we want to see if we got game on Friday, start the tournament semifinals, and hopefully we can win 2 more games and try to make that our, I think it will be 18th or 19th NCAA tournament appearance. I believe it's 18th for school history, and 15 of those are within the last 33 years. So, a strong history. Had great coaches here, obviously great players. Everyone knows about John Morant and the 52 piece he dropped last night.
That's right.
Who had I was very fortunate to be able to coach him. And we've had other guys as well that have been great players. Before I got here, Isaiah Cannon, Cameron Payne, Popeye Jones, Marcus Brown. Heck, he's right next to me right here. He's the all-time leading scorer in EuroLeague history as an American. And played in the NBA for 2 years. So, a great history of great players and great coaches. Mick Cronin, Coach Godfrey, Coach Kennedy, Coach Prohm, Coach Green, who coached in South Carolina for a while. So, there's been a lineage of great coaches, great players, and, just a great tradition and great program here at Murray State, and great fans. That's the one neat thing. We play a road game at Southeast Missouri on Saturday, and we have just as many fans as they do. And so, very fortunate to be at a place like that. And, it's in Murray, Kentucky. It's a small town, and everything about the town revolves around the university, and especially the men's basketball program. And happy for our women's program. I got to give them a shout out too. They got 20 wins this year. I think 21 now. Finished 3rd in the league, so having a great year as well.
Amazing. rich history of basketball, obviously. So talk to me about where you are in your season, if this is conference,
Yeah.
non-conference, the strength of the opponent, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. For this game, this was right before it'd be our last game before conference play starts. So it was right before Christmas break. It's a game we actually did a three game deal, a 2-for-1, and they actually came to our place in 2017-18.
Right.
Ended up losing to them by 3 or 4. Great. I mean, it was an unbelievable environment in here. Bruce Pearl said he'll never come back after the game because he said it was great because it was an SEC environment. Just with the fan base that we have and just the crowd and the players we had at that time. Ja was a freshman then. And then we went and played at their place the next year when Ja was a sophomore, right before Christmas as well. And this was just, we were supposed to take a year off, and then the COVID year we were supposed to play. Well,
Right.
obviously we moved conference games up and they added 2 more conference games. So then we had to move this game to this year. So we got it moved to this year. And it was kind of, we always talk about our non-conference schedule and then our conference schedule. We always do it in 4 seasons: our preseason, our non-conference, our conference, and our conference tournament. And so that's kind of how we break it down. And this was kind of our second season,
Right.
and the ending of it. And, obviously Auburn at one point was, voted and ranked number 1 for a reason, because they're a heck of a team. They got some great players. So it was a great challenge to go there and play in a great environment. I mean, it was right before Christmas. It was sold out. The students weren't there, but they had a lot of alumni. It was, and great game. We ended up losing by 13 and competed really well. And, obviously we wish we'd have won, but that's the last game we've lost. Was 19 games ago was the last game we lost, because knock on wood, we finished 18-0 regular season this past season. So now it's on to conference tournament time.
Love it. So congratulations on that. That's remarkable. Keep it going, like you said.
Yeah.
Now let's delve sort of into the prep for this game. You guys have 4 days off from the prior game. I'm assuming there's probably some travel. There's organizational issues. There's still a little bit of COVID restrictions here and there.
Yeah.
Give me all the rundown of how you prepare.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been doing this for a while now. Like what goes into your scout? What's your process? How are you delivering it? Let's go through all that, please.
Yeah, I was very fortunate for this scout. The one previous scout, we break them up in scouts. Coach does between the assistant coaches. So Coach White and Coach Long would do a great job as well. They had actually the previous 4 scouts before this.
Right.
And it just worked out that way. So I had 2 weeks to prepare for this game.
Love it.
I literally watched every game they played the whole season. And we usually try to do 8 games. That's kind of our, coach's thing. And he has it in the book of, I want you to watch 8 previous games of theirs and then have an edit for him. And what we do is have an edit for coach that he has, a coach's edit. And then we send that to all the assistant coaches so they have it as well. And then to prepare for them, man, I was watching some of those games. I was like, man, are we sure we want to play these guys? I mean, they're really good, and they were playing at a high level at that point and beating high major teams by 30 and playing at a high level. And they had lost to UConn in overtime at the Battle of Atlantis. And Jabari Smith, who to me is, if he's 1 or 2 picking the NBA draft, depends what the NBA team needs. Really special freshman for them. And so I knew we were going to have, we were going to have our hands full playing them. But, it was a team that we break down and coach does it. For me, I get a scout, a blank one, and then I do personnel and then plays. And what we do with that is personnel, write out all the, the things they do well, maybe some things we might be able to take advantage of that I don't put on the scout for the players, but I write notes for our head coach that he has, just, from the things I saw. And then at the end of our scout, it basically has all the plays that they ran and how many times they ran it. So then we try to go over the top 6 plays for that, when we walk through their scout and we go through their stuff.
And would the video correspond to what you're writing out? And do the players end up getting both, or is that only for the staff and then you deliver something different?
Yeah, so what we do for the players is we do it 3 days out. So it's great in league play. So we play every Thursday, Saturday, except for some COVID games we played on Monday. So it was a little different this year.
Right.
But without the makeup games, it's Thursday, Saturday. So what we try to do, if we can have a 3-day prep on that, the 3 days before the game, the guys will get personnel. So they'll just get a personnel scout right after practice, and we'll walk through their scout too at the end. So what we'll do is at the end, we do 6 plays and then 2 out of bounds unders, the ones they run the most or we think we really need to go over. And then we'll show them those out there. Then they'll come watch personnel. And then, basically the night before the game, 2 nights before the game, we'll go over the scout again. And what we do that day too is we break down guards and forwards, and we do a breakdown of their top 4 actions.
Okay.
And so we have managers and coaches running their actions, and maybe a guy who's hurt or, isn't playing as much, he'll be on kind of the scout team for the guards and the bigs. Then we just flip them and reverse them. And we do that for about 12 minutes in a breakdown that we do. And then at the end of the practice, then we walk through their 6 plays and go through them and how we're going to guard them. And then we have our managers, they call themselves the bomb squad. We have them run through, they've got the numbers of the players on and little pennies on with the numbers, and we run through all their stuff.
Love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Seems highly detailed and organized. Do all of your players get the individuals for the entire team? Like, are they getting everybody, or is it like only your starters are getting the guy they're guarding type deal?
Yeah, no, they get the entire, we try to do the top 10 guys. And some some teams have 11, but majority really play 8 or less, the most minutes. So, it's usually 10 to 9, somewhere in there. And they'll get the paper scout the night before. So we'll meet every night before a game at 9 p.m. If it's a home game, it's just the assistants here. Right. And at 9 p.m., we run the scout meeting. And then on the road, the scout meeting's the same at 9 o'clock. It's every time at 9 o'clock p.m. But coach is in there, and he's running it basically, but you're obviously running it as well. And we'll talk about their player personnel, our keys to victory on offense, keys to victory on defense, things that, and then we'll give stats to the guys. Like when they win, does this guy average 20 a game? And when they lose, it's 13 a game. Right. Just little stats like that to help the guys. And little tidbits that, man, they might not even hear us, but I think it makes us feel better as coaches sometimes. Yeah. So we do that. So,
I don't know. I've been doing this for almost 2 years at this point now. And I do actually think it makes a difference because I've watched a lot of varied levels of basketballs, and I've heard a lot of varied levels of approaches. And it does seem to me that the more organized or more prepared translates better. And I mean, a lot of the time they have better personnel too, for sure. Yeah. But it does seem to make a difference. So it's like, I don't know, chicken and egg argument, which one comes first, but it seems to have a difference.
Yeah. And we preach, and coach preaches all the time, is clarity. And we want it to be simple. We don't want to overload them with too much stuff. Like, hey, in this action, they can run 4 different things out of it. I won't say that out on the floor. We might say one different thing that they kind of run out of it. Like we'll talk, they go to a stagger. Instead of coming off, they wrap it, then the next guy gets pinned in, but we want to overload them and show them like 4 different things they can run at. But on the film, we'll show them out of that action what they do so they can see it. And I think for me, especially in the cell phone age, I'm more visual, and so are the players. And so they can see it and be like, oh, okay, I see what, the counter is for them.
So I love that. So like with the top 6 actions that you would deliver in the video scout, you might, in one of those 6 actions, you might have 3 wrinkles that you'll show them.
Yeah.
That's amazing. If there was a spectrum, I asked this one a lot. If there was a spectrum, and at one end of the spectrum, it's like we do what we do defensively, and at the other end of the spectrum, it's like we're going to, completely adjust for our opponent and do different stuff. Sort of, where do you guys lie on that spectrum? You mentioned you're doing walkthroughs and taking on their actions. So
yeah. And we'll talk about, they're all within our principles. We won't go out of our principles. Like for us, we hedge ball screens. We don't really ice. Right. And so we're going to hedge. We might change depending on a player, hey, we're going under on this guy. He's not a shooter. You just have a one-arm show. You're not hedging on this. Right. Just for certain personnel. So we'll change certain things in how we guard a stagger. Like some guys, you just say, hey, man, we're locking and chasing. Other guys may get on the top side, fight through. They're just trying to curl every time. We can't give them that layup. Right. So, we'll change little things like that, but it's all within our principles. And when we do all our shell drills, we'll mix those in the fall so that it's not new to our guys. So when we do make it's a tweak, but it's always our principles. It's not wholesale, like, hey man, we're playing a 2-3 zone this game because they can't.
Yeah, out of
We're not
nowhere, like,
doing
coach, we've never played that once this
Yeah.
season. Like, so basically everything, they would be given a lot of the options in your preseason training
Yep.
camp, I feel.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, we give them those options. And the one thing we always talk about is starting more aggressive. We want to be more aggressive early on. We can always, tailor it back a little bit. And so that's a big thing with us, just doing that. Be more aggressive early. And then when you need to make, some slight changes where you're not quite as aggressive, we make those changes.
Love it. As far as this particular game or your planning overall, I suppose, when would players get their matchups and, rotationally, do guys kind of have an idea of when they're coming in and out of games? Is that predetermined?
It's not predetermined. I mean, we kind of know who our 8 guys are that are going to play. And coach will, he'll lean on the assistants. Like, if we look at a guy like Coach, man, he's tired, we need to get him out. He'll be like, all right. And we've been together. Coach Long's been here 5. I've been here 7 the whole time with Coach McMahon, and Coach White's been here 3. And so, I mean, it's just, we have great relationships. And so it's easy kind of to talk through that. And then the matchups, they're getting them when we talk about personnel that, that Tuesday, basically before the Thursday game. That's when they're going to get like, hey, here's who you're going to be matched up against. When we do the walkthrough, like during practice, we'll just walk up to them like, hey, man, like KJ Williams for us, who's had a heck of a season. I was like, hey, man, you got Kessler. That's who you got. DJ, you got Jabari Smith, and I'll just kind of talk to them about it. And they'll kind of know. And then they'll know when they watch the personnel, like, all right, I really need to pay attention to this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they'll probably mentally spend a little bit more energy on their own particular matchup type.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going from the general process to the specific process, what were some of the keys you really identified taking on this giant after you've watched, the 8 games and all that? What do you attribute like, hey, what's the game plan here, basically?
Yeah, make shots. That was one of the game plans. Like,
it helps.
Yeah, making shots, because they were so good, and they are so good. I mean, they're super talented, and they got tough, hard-nosed dudes too. It's not, sometimes you can play. I mean, honestly, we played a couple high majors in the past that you're like, man, they're not tough as us. Like, we're gonna out tough them. Like, we can beat this team. And we thought we had a chance for them as well, because we think we're really talented as well. But for us, we had to make threes because Kessler's such a great shot blocker. Like, we knew like we had to make threes at a high level, and we needed everyone kind of to do that. And we don't always think that for every game, but I mean, the game before he had, I think, 12 blocks. And I tried not to scare our guys before, but I think he had, let me see.
I think he was averaging 5 in a bit.
Yeah. And in that game, he had against us 7 blocks. Yeah. And it really hurt us. And that was a big thing, when we talked about after, like, I know you talked about adjustments and everything. We're like, man, we probably should have shot more threes. I mean, just because we knew some guys were trying to go in the paint after. We were like, man, you think after 1 or 2 times you learn, like, hey, man, this ain't going to work.
That guy's in there. You see him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we scored on him early. That was the thing. The guys attacked him early and got a couple buckets on him. And then, as he got more comfortable and the game got going, he made some big time plays.
Yeah, he had a couple, like, I wouldn't call them chase downs, but like from behind recovery blocks.
Oh.
Wow, man. That's impressive. Good for you.
Yeah. And the other
go ahead.
He was Jabari Smith, man. Just a heck of a player. We just had to make him take tough shots. And our big thing was make him put the ball on the floor. He can put it on the floor, but he's just such a great catch and shoot guy. He can jab step you, 1-2 dribble. He can shoot, but we really wanted to force him to drive. That was something we talked about. Like, he can't, like, you have to make him put the ball on the floor. And it's tough when he's a 6'10", really a 3-man, but he's playing the 4.
Yeah. So in a scout, if that's like one of the things that you're putting in, and what I mean specifically, not specifically about Jabari, like make him put it on the deck, but like the game plan is, let's say, shoot more threes. Would you then be like, we want to run more of these sets because we typically get, or would it just be like a general phrase where guys are expected to know, hey man, paint touch, we're looking to spray opposite type deal? Yeah,
that's exactly what we put in our scout for offense, was get paint touches to drive and kick.
Yeah.
More so than just getting to the basket every time. Whereas, in league play, we've got some good shot blockers, but, we're usually one of the bigger teams in the league. And so we're like, hey, man, you just got to attack the rim. And if they do overplay you, man, kick it. That's great for 3, but let's get to the basket first. They don't have a shot blocker.
Right.
Whereas against them, you're like, man, you got to drive the paint to suck in the defense. Then you can get wide open threes. And we, obviously we run a bunch of sets. We have a kid, Tevin Brown, who's the all-time 3-point shot maker ever in OVC history. So we were trying to get him, some great shots, and he shot it really well that game. He took 6 threes, made 3 of them. I wish he would have taken 12.
Yeah.
Looking back on it now. Yeah.
Keep shooting. I love it. What about things like pace of play and how many to the glass and defensive/offensive transition?
Yeah.
Do you look to adjust those game to game, or are they just kind of like central tenets that you guys have throughout your whole style?
Yeah, those are central for us, man. We want to push the pace at all times. I mean, that's just something we recruit guys that are good athletes that try to get up and down and recruit to our style. So we're not going to change that often, at all. We really aren't going to change what we do there. So, and then, how many we send to the glass, we always bring 2 back. So we try to send 3 at a time. It's not always 3. It's usually the 2 bigs most of the time. And then we have a wing or a guard who gets the freedom to go to the glass. But we always talk about we want a fullback and a halfback.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then basically you wouldn't change those based upon, like, if your opponent's playing zone versus play man, or if they've got a big, like the team does in there, you're not going to change that. You're going to play the same way.
We're going to play the same way. So there's consistency with what we do, and our guys know what we're doing. And that's what we talk about, that clarity, the simplification. And if, just for me, this is my 19th year and 20th year with the high school coaching that I've been coaching now. And teams that you scout and you watch that are changing and trying to do something different all the time usually aren't very good.
I would agree.
Yeah. And it's because there's no consistency. I'm sure the coach is trying to figure something out. The players are trying to figure it out. I think there's just, it's not cohesive, and they don't really know what they're doing yet as a whole. So I think if you're buying into something, obviously it needs to work and be a fit for your personnel. But then once you do it, you buy into it, and the guys really buy into it and keep improving at it. And I think, I'm a military brat. It's, you always think, and coach talks about it all the time, you always think to the level of your training. Well, when combat comes, and for us is games, so you're going to sync to your training. Well, if you train all the time, for us, we always call it the blue line or help line, to be there at all times. If, like, say, a ball screen, shift and tag, and then the weak side, 2 guys have to be eyed up and they have to be there on the roll. Well, if we keep training, obviously we're going to make mistakes and we're not going to be there sometimes. But if you keep over and over training it, like late game, last game, we're down 12 with 5 minutes to go. And all of a sudden the training came in and guys are making, the reads that they were supposed to early that they didn't. They really started making them because they were locked in.
I got a specific question. I'm sorry, this is a bit of a tangent.
Mm-hmm.
See the 2 guys on the help side eyed up. Do you eye them up all the way to the rim line, like the median of the floor? Or
We'll try to. Obviously, you want to be there, so when he rolls, he runs into you. But if you're guarding a big time shooter, you got to cheat a little more over to the shooter.
Right.
And certain guys, our older guys that have been in the program for 4 or 5 years, they know what they can do out of that, so they can have a little more freedom to get to there. But, obviously, if we give up a layup, we're going to be telling them, hey, man, you need to be on that blue line.
Right.
Yeah.
And you would both high and low tag with both of them on a roll?
Yeah, quick. The high be a quick one, and then the low, obviously, is the second check, trying to sit there and tag right there. Yep.
Like it. Talk about in-game here. Couple things. First, what's important to you on a box? Mm-hmm. Second, what are you guys tracking on the bench as a coaching staff?
Yeah.
And then third, any adjustments that maybe stuck out, both you or them, when you remember this game?
Yeah, it's been a while, and I'm getting older, so I forget a lot. But in the box score, we always want to look at the rebounding, especially offensive rebounding. That's huge for us. We're a top offensive rebounding team in our conference right now, and one of the better ones in the country. So we want to make sure we win that. We think that's a toughness. That's just a want-to thing. Right. And then obviously your turnovers. You want to make sure obviously you're a low turnover, and then for us, we always talk about no live turnovers. So if you're going to turn it over, make sure they don't get a fast break and get an easy bucket.
For sure.
And and we watch games, and when you start struggling, and you watch games every night on TV, the live turnovers are what, especially if you're on the road, that's what gets the home team going. It gets the crowd going. You turn it over, the crowd will get crazy, but we can get back in the half court and we can match up.
Right.
So, we always talk about that. So those are the big things that we look at the box. And then we look also, I'm talking about first Auburn, we wish we would have taken more threes. We talked about that afterwards. But there's games where you're taking too many early. And, we want to dominate the paint. We always talk about getting paint touches and, lead the paint scoring. Like that's a huge thing for us. We want to make sure that we're leading that every time we play. When the teams we played last time and we didn't do it, we did a solid job. We had 36 in the paint, but we had 46 the game before. And we just talked about like, hey man, that's why we won, because we dominated the paint. Right. And that's really, points off turnovers. Our last game, we had 22 points off turnovers. And that's so, cool. Those are huge for us.
And then on the bench as a staff, what like extra are you guys tracking, if anything?
Yeah, our video coordinator is always doing what plays we're running, if they're working, like if we've run something, we've scored a couple times off it, because it when you're watching, but he tallies it. So we know. We've got kills. We got one of our coaches doing kills, which is 3 stops in a row. So we want to know how many kills we have. And then, your fouls. And then you look at the rebounds once you get the stat sheet, all those things. Then we have one coach who does box outs. So he'll tell coach at the media or at a timeout, like, hey, coach, we had 5 missed box outs that last 4-minute segment. And then coach addresses that saying, hey, man, like we got to start boxing out just to, it because you can look at the, box score, but it's just sometimes you need a refresher to remind you on that.
With something like that, would that be a little bit subjective? Like, would you grade the level of a box out, or would it just be he's eye testing it and like, nope, Tim missed that box out totally?
Yeah, it's more eye test, just watching it. And Coach Brown played in Europe, like I said, all the time, leading scorer in American and EuroLeague history. I think he's played at a high level. He knows what he's doing.
He's got a pretty good eye on it for sure.
Yeah.
So what does like a media, a timeout, or a halftime look like when you guys check those metrics and there's something that you need to adjust? Is it just as simple as a statement, or is it we're going to implement XYZ, these plays because this goal needs to happen? Or are there a couple MFs in there and some yelling and screaming? Like, what does it look like for you guys?
Yeah, like for a timeout, we'll meet as a staff real quick. We'll talk, coach goes in and then kind of tells. And then at the end, if you have the scout especially and you see some things, you get to, chime in kind of at the end of that, kind of to help. Or another coach is kind of every once in a while, we'll kind of designate a guy that kind of gives the message of all the coaches, as the assistants. Because the one thing coach doesn't want, he doesn't want all 3 assistants trying to talk to him at once.
Right.
Because it's just too much information. So we've kind of mainstreamed it to where one coach will just it's pretty much, it's either scout coach for the most part, will kind of relay the message to the head coach that game. And then halftime, we meet out like for home games. And the new thing for us is in Division I, we can have film edits of the current game that we get to watch at halftime.
Yeah, amazing.
So our video coordinator will go up to whoever had the scout and just say, hey, here's what I have on the edit, just so you know. Here's 5. We only do like 5 or 6 clips. We don't do more than that. And it's an emphasis on box outs, an emphasis, on transition defense. Most of it's defense for the most part on that. And offensively, we'll just show like, hey, here's when we got downhill and we got the paint, we got buckets. When we didn't, here's why we turned the ball over. And we'll show quick clips. And that scout coach kind of briefly talks about that. And then our head coach, Coach McMahon, he'll chime in and usually takes over, especially if we're losing at half.
So fair to say your VC's got to be very good and very quick at tagging stuff active.
Yeah, he's tagging it a lot. Like he has our managers tagging it all. And then he's got a computer down at his right next to him as well, down on the bench. So he can kind of set that up. And that's the thing, every OVC team can do it. So, it's kind of a league thing. And obviously I know other leagues do that as well.
No, it's amazing. It's a good adjustment. We just recently got the ability to use like electronics on the bench too. Game changer for sure, right? Like, being able to watch a live box or being able to tag games, like you say, is for sure. Last one I have before I move into a little bit of video here. Unless anybody has some questions, please feel free. But do you guys do anything that's sort of like an appraisal of your scout, where it's like, if we lose or if we didn't play as well as we want to, is it based upon execution or is it based upon the information delivered? Do you sort of compare like what your scout is doing versus what actually happened in the game?
Yeah. So what we'll do is after games and league play, it didn't do it as much, especially non-conference.
Right.
We would meet that next day as a staff, and it was Coach Long was defensive coordinator, Coach White and Coach Brown were our offensive coordinators. I did special teams. And so we would do an edit of not all of the plays, but, quite a bit of the plays to show what we did well, what we didn't do well, turnovers, defensively, ball screen defense, transition defense, half court defense. And we would just sit there as a staff and break those down and what we need to do better, what we need to do well, what we need to address for practice that next day, so that we know exactly what, things we didn't do as well and that we can address those with our team. And then we'll meet on, say we play a Saturday. On Monday, we meet as a team and we watch about a 8 to 10 minute clip of that previous game. And then individually, each coach, I work with the forwards, they don't like to be called bigs anymore. But
Okay.
the forward, I work with them. And so they come in here and we watch film individually as well on them.
So everybody would get that same edit type deal, basically.
Mhm.
It wouldn't just be delivered to one or two. And would the order of that edit be the same from week to week, game to game type deal, or would you guys kind of mix and match it based upon what didn't go as well as planned?
What didn't go well or what went well. And that's kind of how you do it. Like if you had a game where you had 5 turnovers and you were terrific, then you have one where you have 15, obviously you're going to show more of those turnovers or,
For sure.
your lack of box outs. And our guys have been receptive to it and done a great job. And then we do a lot of individual film with our guys as well, where we have anywhere from 2 to 5 minute clips so they can watch themselves defensively in a ball screen. And then they can watch if they're rolling correctly, they're setting screens correctly, so we can make those adjustments.
Love it. Those individuals, would you guys, as a coaching staff, each have 2 or 3 players that you would always be working with each time?
Yeah, so I'm with the forwards, so they all come here and watch film. So
Right.
Coach Long does all the wings, and then Coach White does the point guard, so he'll sit and watch with him.
Sorry, you said that and I missed it.
Yeah.
That being said, with those edits, that's really just kind of on that coach to come up with the clips. What they notice, they're going to figure it out and go through there.
So each coach does their own clips for the guys they're watching and then clips it up and then shows it to them. And, it's a good thing at times you think they're not listening, but then you start seeing in game some adjustments. You're like, all right, it did pay off sitting them in here, watching the film.
For sure. It's a great feeling when you actually see implementation, for sure. It's like, hey, look at that. It works.
Yeah. And then you get a laugh with them like, oh, you did watch the film, huh? And they start laughing. I'm like, yeah, I watched.
Nice. I got 11 from the game. Let me know if the size of this and the playback speed is okay for you. As I said, I'll go through each clip 2 or 3 times without being married to results, just sort of talking about what you see. So this one is you guys' first play of the game. It's a drive left. There looks like there was about to be a pin away. It turns into a stagger along the baseline, which ends up for a corner 3 in the offensive left side. Obviously not the result because we miss it, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he got fouled shooting. Talk to me about the set options, why you're looking to run this first, who you're going at, etc., what you're looking to establish.
Yeah, we knew they were going to be super aggressive and play, especially Tevin, really aggressive. So we knew to kind of sell it because we have an action where he comes off that pin down and then, we run our whole set. Well, we knew with them just watching the film how aggressive KD Johnson would be, that he might get lost on this. So that's why we ran that the first play of the game. And obviously it worked out well for us.
Right.
And we'll run it if teams switch or play on the top side. This is just one of our many actions that we can run.
And obviously you're gauging the water as you would speak to see what those coverages might be, see who's missing or not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then going at particular people.
Yeah. There's no doubt. And he's an aggressive defender and a heck of a defender. And we were just let's use his aggressiveness against him. So on this one, we really sold that. And you saw he sold out to it.
Love it.
And we knew Tevin, obviously, at that time was our leading scorer, that they were really going to try to overplay him.
Next one is just their first clip of the game. So we got a handoff to the offensive left side. The ball's reversed, but then put back. Get a little bit of this brush screen dribble drive type action up top where he drives right, hands it off. You guys come under, he pulls. When you're watching this live, what are you thinking? Any adjustments come out of it? Do you have this set? Do you think you played it well? All that.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the set. That wasn't one of our 6 that we went over because it's just not what they ran as much. But number 55, if you pause it once they go to the ghost action, he does a great job for us because obviously we don't want Tevin running into Jabari, and that is an illegal screen technically. And that should be called, but
I was
they're not.
wondering if you would say something. I'm like,
Yeah, but they're not calling
rush.
that. Yeah, it's a Power 5 game. They're not calling that against them, especially the first play of the game. To where, I mean, we tell our guard to run into it because it is illegal and they should call it, but they didn't. But you see, number 55 stayed like he's supposed to, because what you don't want to do is like what we always talk about on those ghost screens, you can't run with your man and just leave, because if you do, then he's just getting downhill, and that's what he's trying to do anyway, just to get an easy layup. And then, I thought we did a solid job. Obviously, you'd rather Tevin not run into that, but they didn't call the illegal, so we'll get over that. Don't want to go under that. The handoffs, we wanted to go under. He was a little far off, and if Cambridge was shooting a 3, we were okay with that. That he's a solid 3-point shooter, but he's not a guy that we were like, oh man, he can't have looks.
Right.
And he got a semi-contested shot, first play of the game. I think that's solid defense right there for us.
Are there any matchups that you're not okay with switching in this
We
game?
don't switch a lot. I mean, that's the one thing with us. We don't switch a ton. We really want to be able to lock in, and like we talked about, the clarity and knowing what we're doing. We're not going to switch, even handoffs guard to guard. We're not switching that. I think too much confusion happens. Too many times guys will fake a handoff to get a layup. So, we always talk about off and under, which he did go off and under, but Tevin got caught up there too.
Right.
That illegal screen. So, it's a good play by them. And I mean, we got a contested 3 with their probably 3rd or 4th best shooter. So we're okay with that.
What are your teaching points on off and under footwork wise? What are you telling your guys with their feet and with their hands to get under or over if you do end up in any coverage?
Yeah, if you can get over, we'd love that. If you can fight through and just get over, and it's not effective at all. But that far out where it is, we tell that guard who's guarding just to take a slight jump back, and the guard who's shooting through, like, man, you got to get through quick, and then we always talk about suck up and have two hands up there on the contest, which he does. His contest up there, it's contested shot for, like I said, their 4th best shooter. You can see off and under right there as well. Boom.
Love it.
Yeah. And then, the key now is, and I don't love it as much. We always talk about hit and go get. Is guys looked at their guy, but they're not going to the glass as much. We always want them to tag them first and then go get the ball.
Dumb that down for me. What do you mean by that? Sorry.
So when the shot goes up like 10 right here and 14 and 55, we want them to go take a step towards their man. And if they approach them, they just tag them. They hit them. Hit and go get. So we want them to go take a step towards them. If they're not going, then they can go pursue the ball. But you'll see here, we kind of turn around and just stare.
Do you advocate for hit and hold at all for any particular players, or is it always hit and go get?
I mean, it's hit and go get. I mean, if you have to hold, if you're in the block, like KJ, who's on the block here with Kessler, he can't hit and go get. He's in the paint. He already knows he has to hit and hold. It just, we talk about it early on, but I mean, these are smart kids. They know not to hit and hold on when they're in the paint. But when you get outside the paint, guys, you just need to hit and go get.
Love it. This one I put in because of the second side action. I really like this set overall. Looks like a 4 high to start. And then basically we get this action was well disguised throughout the game. There's a lot of wrinkles that are in here throughout, but we get a wing entry, and then we get a UCLA cut. Looks like it was going to be a ball screen that gets rejected. We start reversing the ball, and then on the second side we turn into like a side Chicago or pistol type action, I suppose, where it's a handoff into ball screen. Basically almost get a paint touch, doesn't fall. Talk to me about this set, and is it a play call? Are they running it effectively? When they break, what's play after play? And, is the goal to ultimately get second side, or can they go on the first side type deal?
Yeah. That is a call. That's one of our sets right there. And so they know exactly what we're looking for off that. And obviously we tell to wrap, set the screen, and the big pops right here. And you can see the dive right there by 55. And like you said, that Chicago or that pistol, and trying to get an advantage downhill. And obviously it's a continuity out of it. But right there, if he can get downhill, that's what we want right there to get that advantage. And the NBA and the shake action to really get downhill. And then obviously you got a guy like KJ. We want him rolling right there or popping. He can really shoot the three well for us, number 0. I mean, against Belmont last Thursday, he was 4 for 4. So, you know, we give him kind of the freedom a little bit, whether he has to roll or not. Because if he rolls right there, number 0, then 13 in the corner will just, you know, he'll shift up.
Right.
He'll fill that space right there. So, you know, it's got that option juice right there. We would probably like to move the ball a little more and move it side to side. Yes. But I mean, it's not terrible. We don't love the mid-range jumper, especially
It was going to be my
contested.
next question.
Yeah,
We were
so
talking about shot
we
selection.
showed him on the film, like, hey man, I think we can get a better shot than that. You know, a contested mid-range. That's, you know, we preach not shooting those. So for this one, we would have liked to move the ball a little more.
Talk to me about ducking in your big at the same time that somebody's coming off here. This is obviously a timing thing. Different coaches do this differently. What's sort of like you guys' principle there? What are you looking for? Do you want him to come off and maybe throw a quick one in?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want him to throw it in there. You know, obviously, DJ 6'7", Jabari 6'10", and if say we switched it and this was KJ ducking in, who has a real advantage, especially, you know, in league play on duck ins, that we want those guys ducking in, because even if he can't get the duck in and that big is dead to rights, he can get a layup out of this.
Right.
And so we want him to get
the Gortat or railroad type screen. I've got another clip of that we'll talk about a little bit later. But like if he keeps going, basically that low defender can't get out of that block charge circle.
No, he can't at all, and he's stuck. I mean, it's a legal screen, but legal because it's a post duck in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if 35 right here won't leave Tevin, which you can tell he wasn't going to leave Tevin Cambridge over there, that he could have turned the corner and probably gotten a little better shot, given a little hesitation, gone to his right hand. He either had to kick back right here to KJ 0, who would have been wide open, or Jasper, number 12, would have shifted to him, and then he hits, and then we got 13 for a wide open shot as well.
In a perfect world, we're talking about that happening.
Yep.
And then maybe the pass.
Yep.
Or the continuation, right?
Yep. Yeah. As we all want, we want an advantage to get open look. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Next one was another one of your sets that I liked. This one was a horns ghost action up top, right? So they ghost out of it, turns into the stagger away type action, which we reject the first one, pop the second, and spread. Talk to me about what I'm kind of curious about is within this action, obviously lots of wrinkles. You can have the first guy come off, you can twirl it or hug it, or is it a specific call for a specific shot? And if that shot doesn't occur, are they into play after play penetration type principles there? And ultimately like the set.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a play call for us. We want to create advantage for our point guard to get downhill right here. Hopefully they'll fall for it and they bring the big right there, and then you get the stagger. And he was playing on top, so he cut backwards on that one out, and you can see he's trying to screen away for Tevin right there, so Tevin could come off. So like you said, there's different reads off of this, whether he comes off of it, whether he curls right here and, you know, goes across and then 0 pops. Not the 3 we wanted to take, even though we talked about shooting 3s. He's stepping back and it's contested. You know, I'd rather him shot fake right there and he can put the ball on the floor and drive right there, or kick it to 55 and get a mid-range jumper right there because he was open. But I mean, it is a continuity, and the guys know once we set this stagger what we're looking for. Obviously, first option, get downhill.
Right.
Try to score, create an advantage. You can see 35 again, Cambridge, he's not leaving at all.
No, he's hugged up for sure.
And so that's why we ran that too, because you sit there and you see that and say, well, if we get this ghost screen right here and we get an advantage, well, there's no help at all. Because I mean, that side of the floor is going to be dead open, you know?
Do you find that many teams in your conference do stunt or help off of the strong side?
Yeah, some do. We do. I mean, that's our philosophy. I know in the NBA, it's, hey, man, it's coming from the weak side. It's not coming from the strong side. We do. And that's what we're big on, stunting and recovering on that, making them take a contested shot. But, I mean, it's a mixed bag in our league with that. For the most part, a lot of people do the weak side and won't leave. Especially we have Tevin Brown, who's leading the league ever in the history of the league, 75 years or 74 years of the league. They're not leaving him alone. Like, you know, but the one nice thing is, and as you know, as a coach, kids will forget and they get caught in the moment. And they see a guard getting downhill and they're like, man, I got to take that layup away.
Right.
And they'll just give up a wide open three.
Yeah.
And as much as you talk about it in scout, I mean, your instincts are like, man, I can't give a layup.
For sure. Three is worth more than two, though, unfortunately.
Yep.
So in your principles, if he had kept coming, you're coming off strong side, but the low man here, or the most important guy, a lot of the time people call it the make or whatever, he's not coming over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
You're just trying to turn the corner. Because, I mean, here's the thing, 13 right there is a really good shooter, too.
Right.
So we're fortunate enough we have good enough shooters everywhere to where they're like, man, I don't know if we can leave him. To where they'll stay, you know, a little tighter, a hug to his man. I would have preferred he came off that stagger, and then we could get in our action right there. But, I mean, it wasn't wasn't particularly the shot we wanted. You know, those two shots he showed are actually ones we showed in the film afterwards. Like, we can get better shots than this.
Sorry, don't mean to pick on you. I do actually like the sets. I'm probably missing a couple of them. So this one I like. You guys are on defense. You defended multiple actions and went pretty deep in the shot clock here. Thought it was a good defensive possession. Basically, the ball is brought to the offensive right slot, and there's like
right near their cutters action. Yep.
Yeah, right. There's like a roll replace cutter action where they bring somebody up to the offensive left slot. They give the ball back, turns into a step up ball screen.
Yep.
They attack the step up, pick and pop type action, and the other slot dives.
Yep.
You guys are still there. You're square. You preserve matchups. He tries to drive the elbow, kind of gets to the logo, the SEC logo on that spin, has nothing, shoots a contested mid-range. It's an air ball. Obviously, the way you want to play it. Talk to me about what you see, what you like. Obviously, you have the set because you recognize it right away.
Yep.
If you guys missed anything or you would do anything differently.
Yeah, we were doing, you know, on Jabari, we knew on this action with Green, like if you go back, he's driving into a corner with his man in the corner. Because you'll see Johnson and the other kid switch to where we're telling him, we'll usually hedge this, but there's no reason to hedge because there's nowhere to go because Tevin right here has your help in the gap.
Right.
So this was on the scouting report. This was one of the plays we walked through. So they really knew, you know, this play. So we had Tevin right here in the gap, knew that. So it was just a quick show, knowing they were just trying to get Jabari Smith a one-on-one right here.
Right.
And our thing was make him put the ball on the floor. And you got Trey Hannibal right here. Wish his left foot was up a little more right there in the gap, stunting at him, just making him think because he's a little flat-footed right here in the gap, but great duck in right here. Tevin's shifted over. I mean, for us, that's exactly where we want to be. And then you're
great defensive possession. On this, you called it a show. I would just call this like a flat and over, but same idea, I guess.
Yeah.
On this, you're okay with this closeout happening here where he's getting back. You don't mind that being a little bit long on the show and recover?
Nah, because it's just quick. I mean, he's athletic enough, you know, to where he could get there, to where we weren't worried about that. We knew obviously Jabari's a special player and he's going to be a great NBA player. And then right here, the only thing I would say is you can see all our guys in the gaps. I wish right here, Juice was just a little further in this gap. So if he did spin all the way and tried to get to the basket, he could get that steal right there in the gap.
Juice being this gentleman right here.
Number 14. Yep.
And then almost to like the SEC or to the elbow.
Just to the elbow, closer to the elbow.
And then that on the spin would be a stunt and recover as opposed to a full commit to it.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, if he can get the steal, I mean, we trust him enough that if he can get that steal, like he can go get it. But I mean, you know, he didn't spin all the way there, but he looks and he sees there's nowhere to go because we're in those gaps. We're just thinking right here. What does he see? He sees a great defense on the post. He's got to throw a high low. He'd have to throw it over the backboard or near the backboard. So he's not going to throw that. He's in the gap here. We're in the gap here. He's got a pass. He has no pass to KD Johnson and he's got no driving angles. So he had to pull up. He had no choice.
Yeah.
We always talk about
mid-range. I will take it all
day.
We'll
take that all day. And he had some ridiculous ones in that game.
Yeah, right? But I mean, those are the ones where you tip your hat.
That's all and we said that to our guys. We'll just say, man, we tip our hat and say, man, he's a pro.
That's it. I like this one. A little bit of front and lob in the post, but this isn't really what my action is. I love the steal. We're being our own outlet and pushing. I'm wondering if all players can do that for you or if it's only certain ones. But then he basically goes coast to coast and we got a rim run who then turns into the Gortat seal that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is this taught, or is this just good basketball and then gets a
That's
layup?
taught for the rim runner. We teach them every time to run. Like you're rim running every single. The first big down is rim run.
Right.
Like you're going. Now we'll tell them obviously there's common sense. If a guy has a breakaway, you don't run on top of him. But
Right.
like right here, he was ahead of him, and we're telling him rim run and take that big out. And he just took him right out of the play, got him a layup because of it. And we get that quite a bit. When we had Ja, Ja could do. He's ridiculous, but like he used to just kill with this. He would just play off the big and just lay it in every single time.
You mean he has a little speed?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, we had like the top fast break offense in the country, and it was one guy.
It's give him the ball, get out of the way. So that goes into my question. Can everybody be their own outlet, so to speak, and breakaway push? Or is this only certain people?
Yeah, our guards, our bigs, man, we love them, but we want to give them that ball up to a guard.
Right.
And there are times where if there's no one around them, we'll let them bring it up. But for the most part, we want them to give it up and let the guards, and then they can just run to their spots.
Love it. This one I thought was an interesting action. So my note is Iverson and pin down, but basically your orientation is a stack orientation where there's a guy at the nail and then a guy maybe 5 feet above him.
Mm-hmm.
Ball's in the center of the floor. We get an Iverson cut, but both of them are going over top. We dribble push to that wing, and then the gentleman who is on the nail receives the pin down. Yep. We reverse the ball. And then on the other side of the floor, the guy who was pushed out on the original side now receives a pin in, and here's our shot. Yep. Talk to me about wrinkles, the action. I really liked how well this set and the box set that I'll talk about in a few minutes were well disguised. So like all the wrinkles looked the same type deal.
Yeah.
Play call for who you're going to, option, all that stuff. What do you see?
Yep. On this one, we want a 2-man game. Two best players right there. KJ Williams, who in an hour or so will probably be voted player of the year in the league. And then Tev and I just talked about the leading 3-point shooter ever in OVC history. So you got your two best players on one side of the floor. And if we can throw it in, we can throw it in. If he can get a great shot, because he set a great screen right here. You see, they were trying to go over. He cheated Flanagan. And then what's going to happen next time, we'll show them on this play. Well, if they want to overplay with Kessler and come out and contest your shot, you got the dump off to KJ right here.
Yeah, so he's wide open on this too.
He's by himself. Yeah, and so it's just an ISO for those two to make a play. And one's a 5th-year senior, the other one's a 4th-year junior. They're both juniors technically by COVID rules, but one's a 5th year and the other one's 4-year guy. So you got your two best players who really know what we want, know the system, know how we want to play, having an ISO for them. And we run a lot of different sets out of kind of the same formation so that you can't just sit on things.
Love it. It's so well disguised. When I was watching, I was telling LB, who's in the call right now too, I was like, man, they run some good stuff. Like there's sometimes I'll have the conversations like, how do I make this team look good when I'm talking to the person? Not the case at all. I'm just here for the ride right now. You guys do a phenomenal job, basically. And so when you make this play call, it's not specific for one person to get a shot. It's like, we're going to play a 2-man game, and your skill development would dictate how they're going to play it. They're going to make reads, they're going to play out of it. Whatever happens type deal.
Yeah, like we'll tell Tevin if they're locking and chasing and they're really tight on you, man, just curl it. Because you might have a layup because they're probably not going to help off KJ either.
Right.
And if they do help off KJ, that's great. Then KJ's open. We can throw it right to him.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Because that guard's got the freedom bringing it over. Obviously, he's got the slip. He's got if he curls. He's got if he goes over top, we can fade right there, for the flare. So, you got a lot of different options out of that.
Perfect. This baseline out of balance is one more that I really liked. 2 guys, offensive right side of the floor, right on the Tigers logo here. It's a diamond formation. And for anybody who's listening, the left and right of the diamond formation sort of cross. The one that was left then curls the top. And then he sort of vacuums the defenders out as the back pops. And it leaves you a nice little in between. We obviously don't make the shot, but I love the set. With your baseline out of bounds, again, my idea would be, are you just teaching your guys to make the right read based upon where the defenders go, or are you specifically looking for one action?
No, it's to make the read, because like 13 right here, he wraps right here. We played St. Louis. It was Ja's freshman year, so 17, 18. I'd never forget Shaq Buchanan, who's playing in the G League now and putting up like great numbers there. He curled off this and absolutely tomahawked on someone's head. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, I mean, we're looking for, obviously 31. If they fall asleep, he gets the dive, he gets a layup. Then our second read is that wrap. And then the big pinning in is either they overplay, he gets the slip like he did, or they don't do a great job reading it, and Tevin gets a good look. So, I mean, all four options are available. It's, the inbounder's got to read and see what's there.
Yeah, this one is, Coach, I'm just letting you know, it's going in the playbook. This one's stolen. I like it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool after Ja's year. I was at an AU tournament and someone called it Murray State Eraser. And I was like, man, we made it. Because you always hear Carolina, Duke, Michigan, Kentucky, you always hear those calls. So I remember I was like, oh man, we arrived.
There you go. Somebody stole it and named it that. Love it.
Yeah.
This one is the box set that I was mentioning, another offensive play, well disguised for anybody who hasn't seen the game throughout this entire game. There's several instances where the box and wrinkles of it are used. This particular one is the strong side low man pops to the wing. We still have this cut through that is similar to the 4 high action that I mentioned before. It's not a UCLA, it's down the middle. Turns into an empty side ball screen and, pick and pop type action. And this time when we reverse and go to the other side, we use Euro continuity or flow action where it's middleman through on the dive, turns into an empty side here. And then we get a paint touch open look. When you run this, are you looking multiple sides? Can anybody go? I love the variation of instead of being the pistol action on the second side, it's flow. Talk to me and tell me what you got.
Yeah, well, we knew that they were going to ice ball screens on the side. So when that happened, obviously we tell the big right away just to pop out. And then we're reversing it quick and just trying to get in the action because we always talk about, you can't ice a dribble handoff or a ball screen that's a reverse sides quickly. It's really tough for you. So, I mean, this is a call. He's supposed to go with the dribble handoff, and we tell him same thing, turn the corner. And then you see number 10's coming off the stagger. And then you see the duck in by KJ number 0 right here. So he's got all these options right here. So as they cut through, you're going to see he's coming off a stagger. So they're chasing there. Then there's a great.
I totally missed that, the stagger portion of it. I just thought that was a duck in. I didn't realize that after the ball screen, it becomes a stagger there.
Yep.
Nice.
And you can see KD Johnson, he fell asleep on the strong side. Because we actually had, if he would have driven, and he had a great floater, it was a great shot on this one. He's really good at that floater. I mean, it was an uncontested mid-range. We're okay with that, especially with him. But he's got a wide open guy right here just by himself. Just KD Johnson just staring at the ball.
It's just like, what's going on? This is too much action, basically.
Yeah. And so you got all those options. Like I said, he comes off. He's got the option to score first. Second, he's got that duck in. Third, he's got the wing right here. And then if depending on how they're guarding, staggers, hell, that might be our number 1 option. We'll tell them in the timeout, like, hey, when we're running this, really look at the stagger coming off.
So talk to me about the teaching process for something like this. I imagine this happens in preseason. Are they getting like a fast draw playbook or something like that?
Yeah.
Are they getting lots of time walking through it, or are they just playing in it and getting sort of feedback on the fly? What's the implementation process of sets like this?
Yeah, I mean, we start in not quite the summer. Well, in the summer a little bit. We'll run some of our main actions and we'll go through it. One to give them some offense so we can see who can figure out how to run offense. And we'll start putting our playbook in. But I mean, it's like today, I'm looking at our practice schedule right here. We've got, where is this one? Right here. We've got like 20 minutes of 5-on-0. Of just executing our plays. And so every day we're going to have 10 to 20, heck, sometimes 30 minutes of going through our secondaries, going through our half court, going through our zone, and going through all those to where we just keep, like we talk about, you're always going to, you're going to the level of your training. Well, we're going to keep going over these actions every single day to where you're trained and, what we're looking for. And then obviously, we'll talk about, and coach, when he's breaking it down, when he first shows it, we'll show all the different options that they can score off of and what they're looking for. And then once guys get comfortable in it, they start really seeing it. And obviously this year we've been really lucky. Juice Hill, second-year point guard for us, really has done an unbelievable job. I mean, he's a guy who was starting the beginning of the year, his transfer year from junior college to where at the end of the season, last 13 games, he didn't start. because he wasn't doing the things that we asked, and coach met with him and talked to him in the spring. And I mean, he bought in 100%. Obviously, he'll probably be first team all conference this year.
There you go. Better players want to be coached. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
And he did. And, there's a guy coming from a junior college system that they do an unbelievable job, but it was a new system for him, and he didn't quite understand it. And
Right.
he studied this summer and really studied the film, and he bought into it. And obviously, it's worked out well for him.
Love it. Let me ask you this on the skill development piece as well.
Mhm.
Will your players be shooting a lot of shots that are out of the actions that you run, or will skill development be sort of mutually exclusive from the 5-on-0 type deal that you
Yeah.
guys do?
Yeah, what we'll do is obviously we'll do some stuff that's not all that we do. And then, but every coach, whether it's the wings, the point guards, everything that you implement when you're doing individuals, whether it's one-on-one individual or when you have your group of 4,
Yep.
is to run like, hey, we're coming off staggers, or we're coming off shake, we're coming off, like, we'll do that. So we're always working on the stuff that's going to be there. And so we'll implement, like for Juice coming off that, we'll come off, you're wide open. Or the first time we'll tell him get to the basket. Second time you have a finish, but you have to make a move to make that finish.
Right.
And we'll have the pull up. Then we'll have, maybe a jab step. Then we'll have, hey, they went under, you're going to shoot a 3.
Right.
So it'll have all kinds of sets or, shots out of that set that you could get in the game. So we'll try to work on those.
Love
And
it.
then we'll even work on where you're driving and kicking and hitting, and working on throwing back to the guy coming off the stagger, throwing it to the guy in the post, throwing it to the guy on the wing. So, we'll mix those in with the development in the fall.
So the passing will actually be part of your development. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I talk to guys all the time. I'm like, we're going to shoot the ball maybe 80 times in a game. We're going to make 360, 370 passes.
Yeah.
And most of you don't work on your passing ever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
at all. So
Yeah.
it's probably an important skill to have for sure.
Yeah.
I got 2 more, Coach.
right.
So this one is another one of the box set ones. In this, we don't get the guy coming out from the strong side.
Mhm.
We actually end up hitting the forward, and then when we hit the forward, it turns into a
I
pin
know
down.
exactly what's coming.
Yeah, and it turns into a stagger. They go under. It's a one dribble pull up, knocks it down. Talk to me about this. It's obviously a wrinkle, like I said, well hidden in the other stuff. And is it a call? How do you think we did? All that stuff.
No, it's a call. Out of that set right there, we probably have 20 different things we can do out of it. And so it's a specific call, and they know exactly what we're doing on this. It's not a read. It's the read by the head coach or the assistants who say, hey man, I think we should run this right now. I think we get a 3. And so, obviously at that time we were down big, we needed some 3s. So we decided to run this to try to get it. And, the guys did a great job executing, really selling it, because we have a couple different actions to get, bigs layups out of this. So they're more worried half the time about the big. They're like, oh crap, we went over scout and there's a cross screen, down screen. We need to be able to guard that. Well, right. Then this is, a counter to that. We're selling it like we're going again, and then he just comes right off.
Love it. Love it. What do you think of your spacing overall in this set? I think this is phenomenal. What do you teach your guys in terms of where they need to be?
Yeah, we teach our big right there. He has to go out wide, and we always say towards the coach's box. That's what we always, he could even be out a little wider, but he's good, the spacing. And you see that pin down, and then we tell that guard just to come in and find his man. And I mean, the one on 32, I wish he'd had a better angle, Nick, on that screen. But he made his man reroute and go another way, and he had to fight. And because of that, he has a terrible closeout, and he has to leave his feet. And Carter makes a great job shot faking him, and sees that, he's going to have a bad closeout right here. He gets a wide open look.
Yeah.
So I mean,
what I really like about this set, other than the fact that the whole set is great, is how fast the exit cuts happen, right? So like after this pin down up top at the nail, 14's busting his butt to get out, and then underneath we're busting our butt to get back out strong side and look for the shot. And it just, I think then the lack of lingering makes everything flow very well.
Yeah, no, we talk about that. I mean, if we're doing 5-on-0 and coach doesn't think it's fast enough, like we're starting over. Like we're going to make sure we execute at a high level, at a high speed. And so, I mean, you go to shoot around, we're flying around, run at one. I mean, we're running through probably 40 plays and shoot around, maybe more. And we won't use all of them, obviously, but we want to make sure, ones that we think are going to work against this team, that our guys know those, and there's no in the huddle like, oh man, I don't know what this is. And coach draws it up every time out as well, if we're going to run something. But I mean, we do it at a high level to where, I mean, our seniors, they've been doing it for 4 years. They're just like, yeah, I know it. Like, you don't need to talk to me, I'm good. But, with our new guys, especially in the fall, is watching a ton of film, bringing them in here, showing them the plays on fast draw. Certain guys learn visually. Some guys need to be on the court to walk through it. Other guys need to draw it up themselves. So you find out whatever works for that player, and then you just tailor it for them. And so we'll do in the fall. I mean, there were times in the summer and fall, us assistant coaches would bring our guys out there with the guys. Some knew the plays, but the guys that didn't know the plays, and we'd run through like the whole playbook. And at that time in the summer, it's like 10 plays, so it's not a ton.
Right.
But and then in the fall it keeps growing, and then we'll come out there and run it. And then after practice, if guys are struggling, coach would be like, make a mark down, we need to run through this after practice. So we'll do that with guys.
I'd be curious to, and I mean, this would be a separate discussion offline someday or whatever, but I'd be curious to hear your process for recruiting players that learn faster, better, more detailed, because obviously the evaluation process is a large portion of the job that you do for sure, but there's times you're going to miss, and there's times you're going to have more success with those particular players. I'd be curious to see what traits you look for in those initial conversations.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just get lucky, and sometimes you get unlucky.
For sure.
But like that was the team we had with, and this team's high IQ as well. But like a team, because John Morant's a savant at basketball. I mean, he just is. He can replay. Our guys were talking about it because he came to one of our games like 2 weeks ago, and they were joking about how Ja was talking about, oh yeah, man, we ran that my freshman year, and he knew, like, even in practice, he knew when it was, and he could like call it out. It was like Aaron Rodgers, just the photographic memory,
right?
Knowing, like, and they said, oh, he'll talk about stuff like in the locker room. He'll be like at the house talking about something, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember in practice we did this and this. And they're like, no, I don't remember. Like, but he remembers it.
It's a beautiful skill to have, but I mean, I think you work at that too. I don't think a lot of guys have that naturally. I think a lot of guys really develop that.
Yeah.
And then last one, I ask it every week. It's a staple on the show. It kind of leads into discussions about shot selection for sure.
Yeah.
Transition threes, yay or nay for you? And I mean, obviously, your player come in, but talk to me about what you think.
Yeah, time and score for us, like that one, I think we can get a better shot because it's, he's in and out, getting his footwork. He got him to back up, a little step back. He's such a like juice shooting, catch and shoot. Like this fall was like at 80% because we chart every shot. Like it was ridiculous how well he shot it. Now off the bounce, that thing dramatically dropped. So we kept telling him like, and that's where he was. His first year, he wanted to keep shooting off the bounce, to where this year he shoots so many more catch and shoot that he's really grown. And that's why his percentages have gone up. And at one time he was shooting 50% from three because of that.
Yeah.
And so for that one, it's a 20-point game. Hey man, we're just trying to get some easy offense. We prefer not to, but I mean, we wouldn't be terribly upset on that one. I'd rather him, to be honest with you, on that one. If you go back, he's got the all-time three-point shooting leader trailing right behind him.
Yeah.
Drag him to the left a little, Wendell Green, and just get that. But you can see Wendell Green's like, man, I'm not leaving Tevin Brown open. You can see their scout was like, I don't care. He is not getting an open three. Yeah. Where, I mean, honestly, on this one, he could have just driven it. You just see it open, wide open.
Right through the SCP logo, yeah. The C just parted for him.
Yeah, like he could have just driven it. And it's easy for me to say as I'm watching the film.
Right.
But that's where we can show them on film, like, hey man, they're really overplaying Tevin. Other teams are going to do that too. You see that, you give that little, step back dribble, he goes, just drive now, and kind of show him so he can learn, in the future. And he does a great job of that.
Love it. But for everybody on your team, would they all have the green light, or would it be earned? Would it be earned through practice? What's that process like?
It is earned through practice and through stats. I mean, coach is a big stats guy. So, I mean, we stat our guys when they're shooting in the summer and fall. There's a manager in there makes and misses. Like, we know from where they're shooting from, and we have it printed out. And so if a guy comes in, why don't I get shoot threes? We'll just be like, this is why.
What are we talking about here? Look at this.
There's no argument, buddy. Like, and the thing is, and you'll have parents sometimes get upset that their child's not playing and all those things. Well, it's great for me to sit there and say, well, your son's leading us in turnovers this fall. He has the least assist on our team. He's a point guard. Like, what do you want me to do? Is that
Yeah.
my fault?
Yeah, no, that's exactly how my discussions go to. Same thing. I film everything
Yeah.
and I stat it out, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, why isn't my son playing? And it's like, well, because exactly like you said, we're losing when he's on the floor, or he's, like you said, X amount of turnovers in practice, or he's not showing up to practice when I'm at the high school level type deal. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what this conversation is even based on. I don't understand the narrative.
Yeah. And it can be a big, hey, why is he not getting the ball inside? Because he's shooting like 15% in practice. That's why, and they're just like, well, I mean, I think, well, guess what? In practice, he hasn't proved it. He's got to prove it. And it's good for our guys because we can sit there and show them, and it's not a bias. We're just showing them the numbers.
Exactly. So I think it really eliminates coach doesn't like me or is playing favorites. It's like, no, I'm playing the guys that are doing more and performing better because this is a meritocracy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I've arrived at the end. If anybody has any questions, please feel free. But if not, Tim, I mean, I've known you loosely through Rising Coaches a little bit before, and have definitely been a fan of your work. So I'm really excited that you would take the time to sit down with me, and wanted to give you a big thank you. Obviously, congratulations on the remarkable season, but to me, like, it's March now. So for you to be able to sit down with me, my tip of the hat. Thanks so much. I know you practice later on. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It's great to have, a Zoom / podcast kind of like this to where coaches can share and we can all learn from each other. I mean, I like getting on these and just learning and not saying a word. If I can help in any way, I'd love to. A lot of coaches have helped me along the way, and, it's all about helping other people. And I think that's and if you're in it for the right reasons, it's not just about, winning and money and all those things. It's about helping people, young people, and helping coaches. And I learn from young coaches a lot. I mean, I'm an old head now, so, I'm learning from them. Just how to deal with players, is a big thing nowadays. Cause I come from a generation, man, he just cussed me out and I just kept on hooping. I didn't care.
All right. I guess I just got to get back to it.
Yeah, whereas now you can't do that. And I'm never a big guy like that anyway, but it's just you're learning from younger coaches and new things that they're doing, especially in skill development and player development, and you can learn from them. So, man, and obviously coaches that have been through it at a high level, and by high level, I mean high school guys. Like, I think too many people think high level means D1, NBA. Like, there's high school coaches, there's D3 coaches that are, unbelievable coaches that don't get enough, publications for how great they are.
I agree.
I think you can learn as much or more from them because they've had less resources and have had to develop themselves as coaches. And I've coached D3, D2, high school, and, I've obviously been to a million junior college practices, and I respect coaches at all levels. I think that's one thing that people get caught up in, the whole, D1 or whatever. Like, no, there's great coaches at every level.
For sure. Look, just like you said, doing more with less is a big thing. So, like, on this show, I've had coaches like, oh man, I don't know if I want to come on. I don't think I'm like high level enough. And I'm like, man, get out of here. You're super smart and I want to learn from you. And I'm just along for the ride, like I said. So appreciate it. That being said, I will wind it down. Please tune in next week on Run It Back. And just one last big thanks to, both all the coaches that jump on and listen. And of course, Tim Kaine, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Coach Fernandez. And thanks for all the guys that have listened as well, and ladies. Thank you.
Appreciate you.